The crazy thing about Mary is we still don't know where that limit is, and that's one fun thing about coaching her right now is we get to kind of push those boundaries. Like 130-mile week isn't her max, which is crazy. That's what we've gone up to right now, but she recovers from it just as well as any athlete would recover from a 40-mile week. Mary's a unique athlete. I think unlike a lot of people who call themselves professionals in our sport, Mary's an actual professional. She really pays attention to every little detail, recovery, nutrition, everything to be the best athlete possible. And right off the bat, that stood out, and it was evident why she's had so much success in the sport. I'm Matt Daniels. I'm Mary Denholm's coach, and I'm also a professional trail runner, run everything from the mile all the way up to 100 milers.
What kind of coaching expertise do you bring to the table for your athletes?
It's a good question. I wonder that myself. Let me think here. I like to think of myself as a pretty well-rounded coach because of the experience I've had in the sport, and then some of my mentors in the sport as well. I got into coaching shortly after college. Before college, I've always coached a handful of athletes at a time, but shortly after college, I really got excited to kind of expand my coaching practice and business. I had a mentor, my coach at Adams State, Damon Martin, really taught me a lot. I've been fortunate to learn from a lot of the greatest exercise physiologists in the country, and then myself with my own running experience from track all the way to ultras and everything in between. I figured there's not very many coaches out there that have that experience, and so there's a missing piece, missing component to that in the coaching world. And so in 2019 I decided to really kind of go all in with that and open up my coaching practice to coaching people of all sorts of abilities and everything, and just really fell in love with the process of working with people and seeing them achieve their goals, and that's really grown over the years, and I just enjoyed it a lot.
My name is Mary Denholm, and I started trail running in 2024, but technically I started in 2020 when I lived in Flagstaff. I, with a bunch of friends, would get out on the mountains and the trails in Flag, Grand Canyon days, all of that. And since 2020, I've been sneaking off to the mountains as much as possible, but for trail racing, it started in 2024. And I had a really great first year of it. I raced all the Leadville races, the marathon, the 50, the 100, and then also JFK in the fall. When I'm in the thick of it, in the big weeks, I do anywhere from 100 to 130 miles per week. A lot of doubles, sometimes bigger singles as I get more into the peak of training, but often between 2 runs, it's 20-something miles a day. And strength 2 times a week. I eat like a champ, and that not only during the day, but also fueling my runs really well. So the days are really full. And around that, I also am a full-time coach. So when I'm not running, I'm often coaching, and often it feels like in my big weeks, I'm either running or coaching, and there's not much time for anything else.
When we first started working together, right off the bat, I had her go do a few pretty well-known segments in Boulder, just to kind of see where her trail legs were at. She came from a road running background, so to see where her trail legs were at and what her potential was going to be. And Boulder is a great place to kind of measure an athlete's ability because there's so many incredible athletes that come through Boulder. And right away, it was like CR here, a crown here, taking every segment in Boulder, and I was just kind of like, is this for real? Is this really happening? And then I'm not talking about just the top women's segments. She was she's on the overall leaderboard for top 3, top 10 segments in Boulder overall, which is incredible. And so when I started to see that, I started to realize, okay, a race like Leadville is going to really suit her with her road running background, and then getting on the trails and experimenting in ultra distances. Leadville's great because you have this series where you get to start off with the marathon, and then you can do the Silver Rush 50 mile, and then you can do the 100 mile. The thing was the marathon and the 50 mile were 1 week apart, and so I knew if she could handle those two races back to back, she was going to do just fine in the 100 mile. You know, a lot of testing fatigue resistance and that sort of thing. And so, of course, she won both and set a course record. It's up for debate if she set the course record in the marathon, but she set a course record in both of them, ran really well, exceeding my expectations for what a human can do at high altitude. And then I knew right then that she was capable of going under the course record at Leadville if she had a spectacular day. And so we set up a game plan that was like, we're gonna try and hit course record splits, but run her race in the way she needs to run that. And Leadville's not just any 100 miler, it's an Ann Trayson course record there. And so Ann Trayson's a legend in the sport, and I knew it was a big task and a big order to ask for Mary to go to the limits to try and break an Ann Trayson record. But I also knew that she was very capable of doing it, and she got really close to it, and it was a pretty special day.
It's been an interesting year. My training so far, it started off, I was in the best shape of my life, and I had a DNF at Black Canyon 100K in February. Recovered from that, was building towards Canyons 100K, and I had a hamstring injury. It was an acute injury. I was out on a road, I jumped out of the way of a car, and in that moment, that quick movement out of the way, I felt the tear happen, and I knew I needed an MRI, and sure enough, I had a low-grade tear. I ended up needing to take 3 weeks off completely, and then I was able to build back slowly into my training. I ended up getting Shockwave to get it fixed, and I also went through some health issues with a mold exposure, and so it's been a rough couple months, but now here I am, early August, and I'm finally back able to train fully, and I've just had my 3rd week, I would say, of full training, which feels great, towards Run Rabbit 100. My goals for Run Rabbit Run 100 is I want to win the race. I didn't know when I got the tear how long I was going to have to take off, but I was committed to giving my body the full reset and repair that it needed so that I could train fully. I didn't want it to be something that lingered and followed me and just plagued me long term, so I just really leaned into the rest. I tend to be a pretty injury resilient runner, and so when I have these timeouts, I just accept it. I don't try to cross train vigorously, fight losing fitness. I just kind of accept that this is what my body needs at this time, and then when it is 100%, I want to be able to train fully and not half train because I'm dealing with something flaring, and I don't want that roller coaster. And even when you take that full time off, sometimes you still need a little bit of help. Like I needed Shockwave, and I needed to gradually get back into my training and kind of hit reset a couple times. But for me, it's not hard to rest fully when I know it's what my body needs. I first heard about the lever system on social media. It seemed like a great backup tool for myself. Even being a very injury resilient runner and having almost 10 years of a lot of consistency with my running, up until 2022, when I was simply waiting for an MRI, I found out I had a labrum tear. I missed 6 weeks. That was the longest time off I had since 2015 when I started back running. Otherwise, it was just 2 or 3 weeks with intention. So, I am someone who's very injury resilient, but I also recognize that when I'm asking a ton of my body with whether that's road marathon training or ultra training, things happen, and that tends to be what happens to me is something freaky. Like it's not an overuse injury. It tends to be something like acute that happens, whether it's jumping out of the way of a car and having a hamstring tear, or I had a calf strain little saga back in 2024, and that's actually the first time I used the lever was playing around with different shoes, and I didn't realize I ended up in one with a low millimeter drop. Now you better believe I pay attention to that, but so the lever I felt like was something that I wanted to have in the event I got an acute injury, or if I did get an overuse injury. And I felt like that would be a great setup so that if I was taken out from the sport and I needed to rebuild, I could do so in a healthy way and get back to the sport quicker because I'm able to offset body weight. So I I really appreciated the system when I first learned about it, and that's what made me buy it for myself back in 2024.
I think the lever is a super valuable tool to have for all coaches and athletes. It's a game changer. I mean, even for athletes who aren't injured, I have athletes who do all their doubles on lever just because, to keep from getting injured, just run a little bit less body weight. The ability to do faster workouts, especially athletes who are living at higher elevation and altitude, doing a lot of ultra training, just to keep that leg speed without beating themselves up. It's so valuable to have a system like the lever. But then there's cases like Mary, who you have a little injury and we want to still have a season. She's a professional athlete, and so we need to get back in a timely manner. We can't just sit around for weeks on end, and so having that system makes such a big difference for getting back and getting into races and doing her job. And so I think if you have the ability to get one, you absolutely should. It can do nothing but aid you. We're very fortunate during this training block to put in some really big key workouts quickly, because we got back into running a little bit quicker. And for a race like Run Rabbit, it's up at higher elevation, a little more vert, a little more mountainous. The key sessions haven't been too much, not a whole lot around speed. They've been more about getting in some volume, getting in some strength work, and putting in some steady state running in the middle of those runs, and just kind of building that aerobic system up and finding out where the threshold is and building off of that. With Mary, in the way she trains and needs to train for her goal races, being 100 miles, we weren't too worried about getting in a ton of speed on return. The lever system, I've had athletes where we've used the lever system to help aid in getting fast again and getting turnover again without huge impact. For Mary, it was we just need to get a return to run without aggravating the injury. And so we didn't do a whole lot of really intense workouts on the lever. I've had athletes do that and it's been very beneficial, but for Mary, it was let's just get in some volume. And being able to get in an hour or 90 minutes on the lever, I think we even got up to 2 hours for some runs, and all of her doubles on the lever really made a big difference, because for a race like a 100-miler at Run Rabbit, that's not going to be until September. We just need to get as aerobically fit as possible again and get that aerobic system going. And so it was a huge plus to have that, the ability to do that and just get in the volume again.
My mindset for the rest of this training cycle is to put together the training that I know I need to be successful on the day. And for me, I've gotten back to that place, I feel like, just in time to put together a solid block for this race. I have 3 weeks of what I would describe as my full training caliber of running volume, so miles per week, vert, and intensity from workouts. I have all of that these past 3 weeks, and I still have basically 4 more weeks of solid training before the race. So as long as I'm able to put together physically the training that I know I need, I will enter that race feeling mentally as prepared as possible. And that's really all I can ask for myself for any race that I line up for, is feeling physically and mentally ready. And for me, that confidence comes from doing the training and knowing that I've done what I can with the way that the year played out, and I don't allow what's happened in the first half of the year to define the second half of the year. And truthfully, I always trust these timeouts that I wouldn't normally take, and I feel, I would describe, very rested in a disruptive way. So I always try to view it as this timeout is working for me, not against me, and it's just going to make me a very rested athlete. And then as long as I can do the training that I physically need, and I have the confidence that my body is 100% lining up, because I won't line up if my body is compromised. I wouldn't line up with a known injury. And as long as I can line up saying I'm physically 100% in my body, I've physically done the training, and I'm mentally ready, that's all I can ask for lining up for any race. I think the lever is an invaluable tool to have for yourself. Injuries are going to happen. You can do everything right in the sport, and whether it's something freaky or an overuse injury that you run your way into, like, injuries happen in the sport. No one is bulletproof. Even the most injury resilient runners are going to have an injury from time to time. And so ask yourself, if you can get back to sport in a safe way quicker, wouldn't you want to do that? For me, that's why I got lever in the first place.